202 BCE, North Africa. After 17 years of war, everything comes down to one open plain. On one side stands Hannibal Barca, the commander Rome feared more than any man alive. Behind him are about 40,000 soldiers, mercenaries, African infantry, and veterans who followed him through Italy for years. In front of his line wait 80 war elephants, living weapons meant to break formations before the real battle begins. Across the field stands Rome, about 30,000 men, fewer soldiers, open ground, no mountains, no ambush. And facing them is Hannibal himself. Carthage has the numbers, Carthage has the elephants, Carthage has the general who nearly brought Rome to its knees. But this time, Rome is different. This time, Rome has learned. By sunset, around 20,000 Carthaginians will be dead. Thousands more will be captured. Roman losses will be far smaller. The most feared commander of his age will lose the one battle he cannot afford to lose. So how do you defeat Hannibal? How do you beat a man whose victories are still studied 2,000 years later? And how does Rome turn Hannibal's own greatest idea against him? To understand Zama, we need to go back to the Second Punic War. For Rome, it became a fight for survival.
In 218 BCE, Hannibal did what seemed impossible. He crossed the Alps. Tens of thousands of men followed him through mountains that should have destroyed the invasion before it reached Italy. But Hannibal survived, and once he entered Italy, Rome began bleeding. At the Trebia, Roman forces were drawn into disaster in freezing conditions. At Lake Trasimene, an army was ambushed in fog and crushed before it could react. Then came Cannae, Hannibal's masterpiece. Rome placed a massive army in front of him. Hannibal let the Roman center push forward. Then his wings closed around them. A double envelopment, a perfect trap. Tens of thousands of legionaries died in a single day. Senators were killed. Consuls were lost. Many states would have surrendered after that. Rome refused. The Senate would not accept peace. New armies were raised. Slaves were armed. Even with Hannibal still in Italy, Rome kept fighting. Rome should have fallen, but it did not. Because while Hannibal was winning battles in Italy, another Roman was learning how Carthage could be beaten.
In Hispania, Publius Cornelius Scipio studied how Carthaginian armies moved, deceived opponents, and used cavalry, timing, and pressure. Then he began using those lessons against them. Scipio won victories, captured key positions, and became the commander Rome needed most. By 205 BCE, defending Italy was no longer enough. Scipio proposed a plan few men dared to support. Do not chase Hannibal across Italy, invade Africa, threaten Carthage itself, force Hannibal to come home. It was risky, but it worked. Scipio landed in Africa and began winning again. Carthaginian forces were defeated, allies changed sides. Carthage panicked and negotiated for peace. Then Hannibal returned. After 17 years in Italy, the man who had haunted Rome came back to defend his homeland. With him came veterans hardened by the longest campaign of their lives. Carthage regained confidence. The peace collapsed. The master had returned, and the student was waiting. Before the armies fought, Hannibal and Scipio met between their camps. Hannibal offered peace and major concessions, but Scipio refused. Carthage had already broken trust. For him, there were only two choices now: submission or battle. Zama would decide the future.
On the day of battle, Scipio arranged his army with unusual precision. In the center stood Roman infantry, about 24,000 strong. On one wing was Massinissa, the Numidian prince whose cavalry now fought for Rome.
For years, Numidian horsemen had been one of Carthage's greatest weapons. At Zama, that advantage had changed sides. On the other wing stood Laelius with Roman and allied cavalry. But Scipio's most important decision was in the infantry line. Instead of forming one solid wall, he left open corridors through the army, straight lanes running from front to rear. To many Roman officers, it looked dangerous, because Scipio knew what would come first: the elephants. If the Roman line stayed solid, the animals could smash into it and spread panic. So Scipio gave them somewhere to go, through the army, not into it. He placed velites, light infantry with javelins, in front. Their job was to strike, provoke, and retreat into the prepared lanes. He also prepared sound, trumpets, horns, battle noise, anything that could terrify animals already under stress. Across the field, Hannibal formed his army. First came the elephants. Behind them stood 3 lines of infantry. The first line was made of mercenaries from Gaul, Liguria, and Iberia, hard fighters but expendable. The second line held Carthaginian and African infantry, more disciplined, more reliable, and far behind them stood the men Rome feared most, Hannibal's veterans from Italy. Soldiers who had crossed the Alps, survived years of war, and beaten Rome before. Then the elephants charged. The ground shook, dust rose. Huge animals thundered forward, trumpeting as they came. The velites threw their javelins. Then they ran back into the corridors Scipio had created. The Roman line did not collapse. It opened. Some elephants rushed harmlessly through the lanes. Others panicked under missiles and the sudden wall of Roman noise. Some animals turned back into their own side, trampling cavalry and infantry. Hannibal's opening blow failed within minutes. Then the cavalry battle began. Massinissa's Numidians struck one Carthaginian wing. Laelius attacked the other. The Carthaginian cavalry could not hold. It was driven away from the field. Massinissa and Laelius pursued, just as Scipio had ordered. For the moment, the Roman cavalry disappeared from the main fight. In the center, Hannibal's first line advanced. Gauls, Iberians, and Ligurians crashed into the Roman infantry. Shields slammed, swords struck, men fell in the dust. The mercenaries fought fiercely, but the Roman line held and pushed them back. When the first line began to retreat, disaster spread. Hannibal's second line did not simply open to let them pass. The wounded mercenaries collided with the troops behind them. Confusion erupted. Some tried to force their way through. Others turned their weapons on the men blocking them. Carthage's own formation began to break apart. Hannibal did not rush to save them. The first line had served its purpose. Now his African infantry stepped forward. The fighting became harder, more disciplined, more even. The Roman advance slowed. Then the second Carthaginian line began to give way. The Romans pushed forward again, and suddenly they faced the force Hannibal had been holding back, his veterans, the men from Italy, the soldiers who had lived through Trebia, Trasimene, Cannae, and years of war on Roman soil. Now the battle reached its true test. Rome's best infantry faced Hannibal's best men. The collision was brutal. Shields locked, blades stabbed through gaps. Neither side broke. For long moments, the entire war seemed balanced on that line. Then came the sound from behind Hannibal's army. Hoofbeats, thousands of them. Massinissa had returned. So had Laelius. After driving off the Carthaginian cavalry, both Roman wings had ridden around the battlefield. Now they struck Hannibal from the rear. At that moment, history reversed itself. The maneuver that had made Hannibal immortal at Cannae was now used against him, a double envelopment. Roman infantry in front, Roman and Numidian cavalry behind. No escape, no cavalry left to rescue him, no final reserve waiting to save the line. Hannibal's veterans fought with everything they had, but courage could not break a trap that had already closed. The Carthaginian army was surrounded. Then
it was destroyed. When the killing ended, the defeat was catastrophic. Around 20,000 Carthaginians were dead. Many more were captured. Rome had lost far fewer men. Hannibal escaped the field with a small group of cavalry, but his final army was gone. Carthage could not continue. Rome dictated the peace. Carthage lost its fleet. It paid a massive tribute. It could no longer wage war without Roman permission. Its war elephants were surrendered. Its empire was finished. Scipio received a new name, Africanus. Zama did not just end one battle. It ended the Second Punic War. It ended Hannibal's last chance to defeat Rome, and it changed the balance of the ancient world. For 17 years, Hannibal had been Rome's nightmare. At Zama, Rome finally answered him, not by forgetting its defeats, but by learning from them. The student defeated the master. Rome rose as the dominant power of the Western Mediterranean. Carthage survived, but only as a shadow of what it had been. And 50 years later, when Rome and Carthage faced each other again, Rome would not settle for victory. Next would come destruction.